We're ready. Let's go ahead and, give me 1 second here. Let's go ahead and get started. And I'm going to go ahead and start the recording.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, everyone, I want to welcome everyone who's listening in here tonight on our Zoom meeting. I, Antonio Martinez, member of the governing board, call this regular board meeting of the San Ysidro School District to order at 5:04 p.m. I would like to ask that all members of the board to mute their devices at this time. Trustees of the San Ysidro School District Board and the public shall participate in this meeting via teleconference. The public may view this meeting by accessing the YouTube link provided on the agenda. Members of the public are welcome to record this meeting using their own personal devices. The district will also make an audio recording available upon request to the district office. Prior to roll call, I would like to make clear for the record of this meeting, and it should be reflected in the minutes, that this governing board meeting is conducted pursuant to AB 361 and resolution number 2122-0039. Now, I would like to ask our superintendent and secretary to the board, Dr. Potter, to conduct roll call for attendance.
Thank you so much, Board Member Martinez. Conducting roll call, agenda item number 2, beginning with Board Vice President, Mrs. Rosalia Palasigue.
Present.
And Board Clerk, Mrs. Irene Lopez.
Present.
And Board Member, Mr. Antonio Martinez.
Present.
Board Member Martinez, we have 3 board members here. You have a quorum. And
Thank you, Dr.
Board
Potter.
Member Rudy Lopez is absent.
Thank you, Dr. Potter. I would like to now request that each board member respond to the following questions. We're going to start with Board Clerk, Mrs. Irene Lopez. Mrs. Lopez, can you hear me well?
Yes, I can.
Were you able to hear our proceedings on this end until now?
Yes.
And do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, Mrs. Lopez. Next, we're going to move on to Mrs. Palasigue, Board Vice President. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can.
And were you able to hear our proceedings on this end until now?
Yes.
And do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
Yes, I do.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to move on to number 3, which is the agenda. Do we have any corrections, additions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda for the meeting.
I make the motion. I'll second.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Lopez, second by Mrs. Palasigue. Any corrections? Anything else? Okay, Dr. Potter, can you do a roll call vote?
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. Calling for the roll call vote for agenda item number 3, beginning with Board Vice President Rosalia Palasigue.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Calling for the motion for the approval of the agenda, item number 3, beginning with Board Vice President, Mrs. Palasigue.
Yes.
Thank you. Board Clerk, Irene Lopez.
Yes.
And Board Member, Antonio Martinez.
Yes.
The vote passes 3-0.
Thank you, Dr. Potter. We're going to move on to number 4, which is public comment communication on closed session items. Do we have any public comment for closed session?
Mr. Board Member Antonio Martinez, we do not have any closed session public comments at this time.
Thank you, Miguel. We're going to move on to recessing the closed session. I'd like to entertain a motion to recess the closed session in accordance with section 54954.5 regarding 5.1, conference with legal counsel pending litigation, 5.2, conference code section 54957.6, conference with labor negotiators, 5.3, government code section 54957, public employee discipline, dismissal, release, and reassignment. Do I have a motion to recess at 5:07 p.m.?
I make the motion. Second.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Lopez, second by Mrs. Palasigue. Dr. Potter, can you do a roll call vote, please, to recess to closed session?
Calling for the roll call vote, beginning with Board Vice President Rosalia Palasigue.
Yes.
Board Clerk Irene Lopez.
Yes.
Board Member Antonio Martinez.
Yes.
The vote passes 3-0.
Thank you, everyone. And then we're recessing to closed session right now. We'll see everybody back after our closed session meeting. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back.
Okay.
Okay, everyone, who are we missing? I think we're all, no? There we go. Perfect. And it's so good to see Mrs. Colon.
Hi, nice to see you.
Okay, I think we're all here. I'm gonna have us reconvene from open session. No, excuse me, reconvene into open session from closed session at 5:50 p.m. I, Antonio Martinez, member of the governing board, call this regular board meeting of the San Isidro School District to order. I'd like to ask that all members of the board to mute their devices at this time. I would like to ask trustees of the San Isidro School Board and the public shall participate in this meeting via teleconference. The public may view this meeting by accessing the YouTube link provided on the agenda. To listen to this meeting in Spanish, please call 317-934-0230 and enter the access code 949-178-567#. Para escuchar esta junta en español, por favor llame al 317-934-0230 y ingresa el código de acceso 949-178-567, signo de gato. Members of the public are welcome to record this meeting using their own personal devices. The district will also make an audio recording available upon request to the school district. Prior to roll call, I would like to make it clear for the record of this meeting, and it should be reflected in the minutes, that this governing board meeting is conducted pursuant to AB 361 and resolution number 2122-0039. Now, I'd like to ask our attorney, Mr. Sanchez, to report out on the action that was taken on closed session.
Thank you, Trustee Martinez. In closed session, the board approved a settlement agreement in Office of Administrative Hearings case number 2022-05-0542. The motion was made by board member Irene Lopez, seconded by board member Palasigue, with all members present in a vote of 3-0 in favor, with trustee Rudy Lopez absent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Now I'd like to ask our superintendent, secretary of the board, Dr. Potter, to conduct roll call for attendance.
Thank you, Board Member Martinez. Calling roll call, beginning with Board Vice President Palasigue.
Present.
Board Clerk Lopez.
Present.
And Board Member Martinez.
Present.
We have a quorum of 3-0.
Thanks, Dr. Potter. I would now like to request that each board member respond to the following questions. We're going to start with Board Clerk, Mrs. Irene Lopez. Mrs. Lopez, can you hear me well?
Yes, I can.
Were you able to hear our proceedings on this end until now?
Yes, sir.
And do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
I do.
Thank you, Mrs. Lopez. Mrs. Palasigue, as our board vice president, can you hear me well?
I can.
Okay, were you able to hear our proceedings on this end until now?
Yes.
And do you have a copy of the agenda for this meeting?
Yes.
I would now request that any board member speak at this time if the board member has reason to believe that those persons representing themselves to be a board member are not truly so. Hearing no comment, the record should reflect that no board member has expressed doubt that the board members participating by teleconference are not so. And on that note, we're going to move on to the flag salute. Please join me in the flag salute. We'll be displaying a flag, picture of the flag on the screen, and I'd ask those in the meeting, including other board members, to mute to avoid feedback during the salute. So I'm going to lead this. Everybody put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're going to move on to number 9, which is public comment communication on open session items. Persons who want to comment on topics not included on the agenda or comment on agendized topics are invited to submit comments via email. And I believe we do have one comment.
Hi, Board Member Martinez. Yes, we do have one telephonic request that was submitted, and they are currently in the waiting room. I'm going to go ahead and admit this person. Fernanda Rios, are you there? Fernanda, I believe you are on mute. Fernanda, are you there?
Miguel, I think she's calling in. How do you unmute yourself if you're calling in?
Give me 1 second. Let me see. Fernanda, if you press *6, you should be able to mute and unmute yourself.
Hello?
Hello, Fernanda, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Fernanda, you are now with the governing board, and this is in regards to your telephonic request that you submitted. I'm going to go ahead and place the 5-minute clock. Give me just 1 second, and then you can begin your public comment.
Okay, thank you very much. So good evening, board members, Dr. Potter, cabinet, and everyone who is listening in. My name is Fernanda Rios, and I am the current chapter president for CSCA's chapter 154. I'm calling to share our concerns regarding items 15C1 and 15C2, which is the creation of a new assistant superintendent position and the revision of an existing one. As you all know, CSCA has just finished bargaining with the district, and something that kept being brought up as a concern from the district team was the issue of money. We think it is a complete contradiction to express the concern about not having enough money to support the least paying staff at the district, which are classified members, then seeing a new position for a second assistant superintendent that will obviously be continuous funds and will earn approximately $140,000 a year. And since it will be 2 assistant superintendents, you can multiply that amount by 2. Aside from the cost that this will be added to our district budget, we are now finding out that there was an additional cost to the County Office of Ed to help recruit for this position. This additional cost was $15,000 approximate, and it was snuck into last agenda. The reason I say it was snuck in is because previously any costs would be outlined in the agenda, and now anything that is less than a certain amount, which at this point in time I can't remember what that is, doesn't have to be put into detail. Aside from this, usually the district doesn't ask for support from the county for recruitment unless the district is in search for a superintendent. Remember, many of us have worked here for many years and have seen the way the process works. So why now? Why create 2 separate assistant superintendent positions when we used to just have one? Why have the county create this position instead of it being created by the district? And why pay the county to help, quote unquote, help recruit when that has never been done for this process for this specific position before? I also want to point out that this is all being done extremely fast and during summer break when most are out of town and are not aware that funds are going to be used in this way. During our board agenda review, we asked for a breakdown of what funds were being used to cover this position. It was mentioned that they would be saving money from a position. That position that was mentioned was the director of MOTF, because it is being reduced to a manager position. That is only about $40,000 that will be saved from that position. The other funds we were told that would be used were the bonds, which we were under the impression couldn't be used for salary, and funds coming from the state to support with safety. But a clear breakdown of how the funds would be used for this position is not being provided. The explanation that was given to us was very wishy-washy because Marilyn is on vacation. Well, if it can't be explained properly, then what is the rush for this position to be pushed for now? Why? Everyone knows that this district is small and news travels fast. What we don't want to see is mismanaged funds or the creation of positions for specific people. Our team respects the board very much, but you all have to continue to ask questions that go beyond the simple explanations given to you. Once you all give the power to someone to create these kinds of decisions that don't have solid reasoning behind it, we run the risk of getting to the point where the district used to be, where the board would agree with any explanation given to them by the superintendent. I will leave you all with this that is always told to our classified team. Look at the surrounding districts that are similar in size. South Bay, National City, and Coronado don't have 2 assistant superintendents. San Isidro does not need 2 assistant superintendents. Those funds can be put to better use within our district. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernanda. Do we have any other more public comment, Miguel?
Board Member Martinez, we do not have any other public comments for open session.
Okay. And on that note, we're going to move on to our board interviews on appointment. I'm very happy to see we have Mrs. Zenaida Rosario here with us to interview. She's the only one who actually applied for the candidate position, so I just want to welcome her and say thank you from my end for applying. So the way this is going to work is we're gonna allow Mrs. Zenaida Rosario 5 minutes to introduce herself. And then after that, we'll begin to ask board interview questions. So it will start with me, then board clerk, Mrs. Lopez, and then finish off with Mrs. Palasigue. So on that note, I just want to say thank you for Mrs. Rosario for being here with us. Thank you for applying. And you have 5 minutes to introduce yourself.
Okay. Good afternoon and good evening, and my pleasure to be here this evening, sharing a little bit about myself. My name is Zenaida Rosario, and I have been a resident of San Isidro for 36 years. Prior to that, I lived 2 years in Imperial Beach and grew up in East Los Angeles, attending Garfield High School, my alma mater, and then went to UC San Diego, got my BA there, and then I got my master's at San Diego State. I want to read a small excerpt from the application when I was named California Teacher of the Year in 2004, humbly representing this amazing profession of educators. And they all say, the committee who reviewed my application said that this is what captured their attention about the person that I was and the teacher that I lived as for many, many years. And so I would like to share this with you, and you get to know a little bit more about me. I was born in the hills of Tijuana in a very poor community called La Pancho Villa. My mother recalls the little shack we called home, where I lived with my 3 sisters and my brothers. My parents knew that life would not get any easier if we remained in Tijuana. So my dad, he risked his life coming across the border. He wanted us to have a chance in the land of opportunity. He immigrated and returned for his family in a few months. it was a lot easier back then to immigrate. Um, Life in his new country, in this new country, would give us opportunities undreamed of in Mexico. My parents shared with me their stories of what school was like for them. My father wanted to be a doctor, but had to abandon school at the age of 6 in order to help his family put food on the table. My mother's experience was harsh, for in small ranches, um, if she was punished for not knowing the answers to questions asked by teachers. She was once humiliated in school for not answering correctly, and she had to kneel down wearing donkey ears made out of paper and having to hold 2 bricks in her hands for an hour. I was horrified by these stories, yet thankful that I would not have to live such horrors, for America would have a better educational system that would help me learn. Their hardships were the beginning of many things that would soon influence me to become a teacher. I know that I was born to be a teacher, for back in the days, at the end of the year, my teacher would stack all the leftover worksheets across the classroom, and I always volunteered to take those papers home. I played school with my cousins and my sisters, and I helped them learn English. My early years in school were not as easy as it was challenging to learn in an all English environment. I needed teachers who could understand me, my culture, my struggles, instead of continuously struggling because of the language barrier, which was later used as a criteria to place me into what they called slow learner classrooms. Every day I went to school full of fear, but my life did turn around because of caring teachers. They challenged me and gave me harder work and tutoring in order to learn English. My parents knew that school was hard, but as one of the oldest, my dad didn't want me to give up, so he gave me all the support by encouraging me to study very hard. He saw the teaching profession as one of honor and looked up to my teachers as I noticed the respect he demonstrated when meeting with them and the proud look on his face when he received my report cards. At a young age of 8, he took the whole family for an outing on a summer day. The sound of my mother making tortillas reminded me of how hard my family did work to give us the best life they could. We ended up in strawberry fields where we would pick strawberries and earn money. We were excited at first, but after an 8-hour shift, the thrill was gone. I only filled 1 crate of strawberries for the amount of $1. I was disappointed. I had worked too hard in the hot burning sun, bent over, feeling the stinging pain in my back while being stung by flying mosquitoes that pestered over me. Those conditions were shared with hundreds of other people who filled up more than just 1 crate. The lesson was valuable that day as I realized my dad was trying to teach us how difficult life could be without an education. Feeling beat up and tired, we drove home and I thought about all those people in that field and how many of them did that every single day. I believe the lesson did change my life indeed, as I became an exceptional student and was the first in my family to go to a university and become a successful professional, a teacher, or as my dad, who he rests in heaven now, would say, call me mi maestrita. I have been a very committed individual and was very fortunate to have been placed in San Isidro in 1982 at the young age of 21 to start my career as a teacher at La Mirada. And since then, my service of 38 years have given me the most amazing experience any teacher could ask for. I documented my strawberry fields in a book called Las Fresas Me Ayudaron, Strawberry Dreams, which it's on YouTube. It was a gift of that I wrote for all the students that I taught throughout my 38 years. And I share it because it's very as an inspiration that we can all make it. When we believe in our students, they can make all their dreams come true. And I always value that because I know if it hadn't been for my parents and those caring teachers, I wouldn't be sitting here before you applying now to continue my service as a board member for San Isidro School District. I am married. My husband is retired military, but still works. I have 5 grandchildren from 2 beautiful daughters. And so I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be able to live in this community, serve this community. and to know so many people who truly, truly care about the children in San Isidro. And that's just a little bit about me.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Rosario. Beautiful, beautiful. I'm gonna ask my two questions, and then I'm gonna move it to Mrs. Lopez. But my first question is, I think you already answered it, is one, please describe your professional, educational, and leadership experience that make you a strong candidate to serve as governing board member of our school district. And I believe you'd answered it, so I think you repeat the same question.
Well, you know, my dream being validated as a teacher, I know that when I was a student at UCSD and looking forward to becoming a teacher, I didn't really realize back then that you continue learning the rest of your life. I thought, this is it, I'm going to be in the classroom and for the rest of my life, I'll know what to do. And boy, was I in for a surprise the first day of teaching. And I realized there is so much to learn and you never stop learning as an educator. So I always went back and took courses. After my master's, I attended Loyola Marymount, Los Angeles to get a certificate for early childhood learning, since I was working with 4 and 5-year-olds. And, you know, children behave in their most amazing way. And sometimes we as adults need to really understand what's going on in their minds and their hearts and their emotional, you know, actions daily in and out of learning. And so I always loved learning as a lifelong learner and an ambassador for education. It meant continuous learning and reading professional books and talking to people and sharing ideas, because that's what makes a person valuable, when you are listening to others and working together for the better, in this case, for children in our profession. So I really believe that my background, my educational background is very important, being a board member for an educational school district.
Thank you, Mrs. Rosario. My second question, what would you like to accomplish as a board member?
As a board member, I know that it's very important to really listen to the needs of the community and work together as a team with my fellow board member colleagues. It's teamwork, definitely. It's never going to be this is what I want to do. This is what we need to do for the community based on the needs and the concerns of the individuals who really understand the educational system, but all the stakeholders who are involved, all the teachers at all the school sites, all the parents in the community and the children, and really know what's going on in the classrooms and have those opportunities to go in and visit and ask educators and parents and children, how can we support you so that you can learn and you can feel successful in this journey as learners.
Thank you, Mrs. Rosario. I'm going to pass it to Mrs. Lopez.
Can we, would it be okay, Mr. Martinez, Board Member Martinez, to pass to Board Vice President Palasigue first? I just need a few moments.
Sure, absolutely. So
Thank
we'll go
you.
with Mrs. Palasigue next.
Hello, Mrs. Rosario. It's so good to see you.
Great to see
We're
you.
very excited that you applied. I think this is the first time, at least since I've been here, that we have someone with such an extensive educational background as a board member. I don't know how long since Antonio's been here. My question to you today is, what are you proud of in this district? And what would you like to accomplish as a board member?
I am proud that our district has grown to begin with. I know when I first started here, there was only 5 schools. And we never imagined that the community would grow in the Ocean View Hills. And we were really happy and excited when we saw the community growing. What has always made me very proud of San Isidro, and having lived here for 36 years, is the commitment of the community with the schools. I've seen throughout the years the involvement, and sometimes it may be just a few parent leaders or community members, but throughout the years the leadership has grown because there's been a big interest and movement to really become involved with schools. Maybe because in the past, community members who didn't have children in our schools or parents maybe felt that they were not welcome in the school system itself. Maybe thinking, well, I'm not really sure how it's run or what happens. I will help my child with what they need to learn at school, but not really understanding that it is important to become involved with the schools and that it is an open door and that we are all here to listen, to move forward for the children's best interest. I am really proud of all the educators who have committed to working in this district for years. And that is really honorable to see that, because we have educators who have come, who drive as far as Ramona daily all the way here. And I know there are probably many North County residents that drive here to our community and also across the border. I think that says a lot for our community, even though we are small. It says that I love, and I enjoy living in this community, and I want to make it the best it can. So when our district has grown, even though one of our schools is no longer there, I've seen other aspects of the community that contribute to the schools districts, like our local library, now the teen center that it has just recently opened this past week. And I think that makes me proud that our leaders are really caring enough to give access to our community members to do many things outside of our schools, but also understand that they are part of our school system. And together, we're going to continue to make this district a place that we can all be proud of, to say, I work, or I teach, I learn, I live in San Isidro.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. And my last question is, summarize your greatest strengths that you will bring as a board member. And I think that's so easy for you to answer because you have so many.
Well, I always have commitment. And believe it or not, when I was a child, I was so afraid to speak in public. In my first speech I ever gave, I stood up and my chair fell. And I thought, okay, that can break the ice. From now on, that will be easy. Maybe if I drop something and everybody's attention will focus on that, then I can be free to speak and not feel nervous. I've always had commitment is so important. When you commit yourself to become a teacher, an individual, mother, a friend, anything, you have to follow through. It isn't something that you're just going to say, well, I'll do it today, but I'm not sure if I'm going to like this. And I'm sure as a board member, there are going to be many things that are going to be challenging, but to be able to have listening skills and work together with the team to problem solve, and always, understand that we're working to achieve the goals that we all have for our students, because we want student success. So these skills, to be able to work with the public and communicate and be able to listen and be able to accept criticism, to be able to work for the betterment of all of us, I think that those are skills that will definitely help me as a board member. And I've had many wonderful mentors. I've attended many board meetings, and I've seen throughout the years how it has changed. Obviously, we have had many models that maybe sometimes we would say, I wonder if they were really in their heart to be a leader making decisions for children. So it really makes me almost come full circle as having been a student for so many years, a learner for so many years, and I'm still a learner, a member of this community, teaching for 38 years and 40, if you count my 2 years of pre-service, which I also started in San Isidro, and now full circle to be able to serve this community as a board member, as a team member. I think that really will give me an opportunity to use the skills that have made me a successful teacher throughout the years, a successful colleague and friend, and just a learner. I really believe. I think that's key, and I've seen that from many of you throughout the years. So I thank you for that, because as a learner, that's how we learn. Our children learn from us, our students learn from us. I've met prior students that I've had 30, 40 years ago, and they come back and they tell me something simple and small that I probably can't remember. And for them to remember that across all those years, that's the impact that I think is critical when we are at the head of a district, of a group of people who truly care about children, and we want them to learn. And that's really what I feel will give me an opportunity to continue the service that I have committed to throughout the years here in San Isidro. I've actually lived in San Diego now more years in my life than I did growing up in East Los Angeles, but I still visit because my mother still lives in the same house I grew up in all those years. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so, so much.
Any additional questions, Ms. Palsigue?
No, that's all for me today. Thank you, Ms. Rosario.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Perfect. Mrs. Lopez, you're up.
Okay, well, the questions that I picked, some of them are almost the same, but anyway, I'm still going to ask it. As a trustee, what do you see as your primary purpose or primary role? How would you fulfill the role both as an individual and as a member of the governing board?
As a member of the governing board, I do understand that, again, I've mentioned this before, I am part of a team. And that leadership is very important. And when I go out to the schools or when I go out to speak to the community or parents, I am representing the school board of San Isidro. And so it is very important that we always understand when we go out there, it's not just me who's speaking. I'm speaking the globally what we all know and understand about San Isidro. That's really critical. To make myself a little more clear is, I know that there are a lot of issues, there are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of things that we need to work on, and that the pandemic has also changed how schools are run. And it's not something that we're going to be able to change overnight. I know that it affected the educational progress of our students, and time lost can never be replaced. And I know as a board member and as a team, we need to find answers and ways and resources above all to help our students achieve to the gap of those 2 years. And even though we were back at schools last year, they were challenging because many times children were sick or teachers were sick. And so that's always considered like lost time. Our students are always going to be at the top of our list of why we are here. And that is something that I want to commit to and represent as a board member, that my fights or my advocation of parents or leadership or children are always going to be because of the students. And if we always keep them as the priority, I know that many of our decisions will always be the right thing to do. And so as a board member, I have a lot to learn. I've been a teacher for many, many years, a parent for many, many years, a grandparent for at least 14 years. And I want to be able to be at the best that I can as a board member. And so I would ask for lots of leadership, lots of opportunities to learn from you as well as other board members across the county in understanding running school boards and making very, very important decisions that will affect our students. And so it is an area, obviously, that I haven't served in, but if I do, it'll be the first half hour of my life here. But I look forward to it, and I look forward to just continue to work with the community, a community I know I care for and know so many people. So I thank all of you for your continuous support throughout the years when I would come to the board as an educator and as a parent, as a community member. And I know that if it continues to work as it has been, where we understand it's transparent, all the information that can be shared with the community is shared, and that we always voice, concerns or questions when we have them, so that we can all be the best board members for our community. And I think that that's very important.
Zenaida, this last one, I don't know. At what point should a board member involve him or herself in the day-to-day operations of the school district?
Well, my understanding of the participation of board members is, I understand that they basically can be involved with the day-to-day administration of schools that are running, but I know that many times some of us have jobs during the day or other commitments during the day, and so sometimes that may not be possible, but whenever possible, I think that we should always know what's going on in every day, what's going on with the schools. The leadership, especially how the leadership is communicating with their staff, with the parents, the community. I think that as board members, we need to be involved in the aspect that if parents are coming to us with questions or concerns, that we have answers when we have them, but if we don't, that we always get back to the community. And this is one of the concerns over the years, in my 35 years as a resident in San Isidro, would be, well, I called the board members, but they never got back to me. And I know we can't get back to 1,000 people if 1,000 people contacted us, but if we can get back to many, especially when the issues are really dire and it's a concern that really affects not just a family, but many, many children in the classrooms, it's very important. And that as board members, we are always up to date as to what laws affect school districts, personnel, as well as budgets, monies, how they're spent, especially when it's a lot of money. We've always known and been labeled as the poor community in San Isidro, but we want that to change. And that can only change if monies are spent incredibly wisely, very effectively, and that everybody knows how the monies are spent, so that there is no question and these resources are used to its maximum capacity. Because when we are paying people, whether it be administrators or teachers or resource or TAs or services that take care of our children before and after school, we hold them all accountable. And we hold ourselves accountable to a community who they depend on us to do all this, so that the educational system is giving them the best, so they can continue to graduate from high school and come back and give back to our communities, which many students have. And that has made me very proud of this community, but we need more. And I know, we're far from perfection, but as long as we're, walking the path towards being the best we can for our children, there is no doubt that we will not be recognized as that poor community. I'm talking poor financially, because they say, oh, they never have money. They always have all these lawsuits. All the money goes to people who leave. And what happens to the kids? I want to drive by every single school in this district and know that inside every single classroom, there is a child there that got up that morning and said, I want to go to school because I want to learn. And when they're in that classroom, they are learning. And we are giving all the resources to our capabilities so the children can learn. And I'm very passionate about that. And so I find that is something that I want to contribute to all of you, because it's going to always be a team. Whether I go out to school by myself, I will always be representing the 5 of us. So the mighty 5. That's what I feel.
Thank you, Zenaida. You know what? You kind of reminded us, and I think the rest of the board believes in that, but you reminded us something, about having the heart for this community. And I think that we're learning from you right now, that we need to remind ourselves that, yes, that's our goal. That's our goal when we first came aboard. was to be here for this community, for our kids. And that's the most important thing. We're here because of the kids. That's our most important thing. And I think that I see it in you and I saw it in you. And I know that many students of our community do know that you were the teacher that taught them something that they still remember. And I hear comments and I think that's beautiful. So thank you for opening up your heart and telling us, because I know that a lot of these questions brought answers to all three of us that we were hesitant. Well, she has to make it long. No, it's really coming from your heart. And I really thank you. And I respect you for that. So thank you, Zenaida.
Well, thank you very much. And all of you for giving me an opportunity to, apply to be part of your team and to commit my leadership skills to work together with our district and our superintendent and all the administration, the schools, the leaders at our schools, and just connect with the children and stay connected with the parents, because that's number one. You stay connected with parents, and that's when I saw a turn in my career as an educator. When I went back to school to become an educator for the PICA program, for the parenting program, because I wanted to know what parents were thinking, what they wanted from the educational system, what they did not understand but wanted to know. And that gave me another avenue to work with parents. And that's when I saw my whole career as a teacher change. And that's when I saw more parents involved with the students that I was privileged to teach. And I saw more success. And I know that that's the key. It's always been, there's a lot of research out there that shows that the connection with parents and making that true connection with children, that they truly know that you care about them genuinely, that makes a difference always. And there is no turning back from that, because I've seen it. I can say I saw it. I wasn't doing research, but I was living research and seeing it right before my eyes. Thank you.
Mrs. Lopez, do you have any more questions for Mrs. Rosario?
No, thank you.
Okay. So we have concluded our interview process. What we're going to do now is I would like to, given that Mrs. Rosario is the only candidate applying, I'd first want to entertain a motion to appoint Mrs. Rosario to the governing board. Then we're going to second it, and then we'll have an open discussion, and then we'll vote on it. So first, I'd like to entertain a motion, and I'm going to be a little bit selfish here. I want to make the motion to appoint Mrs. Rosario as a fellow governing board member of our beautiful school district.
Thank you.
And I'll second it.
Okay, Mrs. Lopez seconds that. Now we can have an open discussion. Mrs. Lopez, Mrs. Palasiga?
No discussion for me other than this is a very exciting time for San Ysidro. It's a privilege to have someone like Ms. Rosario on this board.
Thank you.
Mrs. Lopez, anything else?
I think it's another star for us, because I've not heard of another teacher who was once teacher of the year, teacher of the county, teacher went up as far as a national, that's been applied as a board member. So I agree strongly. Thank you.
And my 2 cents are this. Mrs. Rosario is probably one of the most qualified candidates to apply for this position. Aside from working in our school district for 38 years or 40 years, she has lived in our community. And no one understands the community more than someone who lives here for a very long time. So for me, I consider it an absolute honor to have Mrs. Rosario as my colleague and my friend. She's been my friend for many years, and now she's going to be my colleague because I'm going to vote yes. But I'm going to tell you that for me, it's an absolute privilege, Mrs. Rosario. I'm blessed. I think we're all blessed. The school district was blessed. This community is blessed to have you with us. And on that note, I'd like us to do a roll call vote. Dr. Potter, can you lead us, please?
I'm honored to do the roll call vote for this agenda item number 10, the motion to appoint Zenaida Rosario to our governing board, beginning with, let's see, Board Vice President Palasiga.
Yes.
And Board Clerk Lopez.
Yes.
and Board Member Martinez.
Yes.
Woohoo! The vote passes 3-0. Woohoo!
So now, Dr. Potter, now that we have, so first of all, congratulations to Mrs. Rosario as
Yes.
now being a fellow board member of the San Isidro School District. There's a round of applause for Mrs. Rosario, first and foremost.
Thank you very much.
Then I'd like to, I know that we're going to do the oath of office, and Dr. Potter, can you lead us on that as well?
It's my absolute honor to administer as the superintendent the oath of office to our brand new board member, Zenaida Rosario. So, Ms. Rosario, would you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Zenaida Rosario,
I, Zenaida Rosario,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You now are our new governing board member of San Ysidro School District.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm honored and I'm humbled, and I commit my service to this community as a board member. Thank you.
We're excited to have you join
Yes,
our
I
team.
am very excited too. I retired
All right.
in the pandemic and I become a board member during a Zoom meeting. So let's cheer like.
We'll be back at it. We'll be back at it next month.
Hey, party! Congratulations. Sorry.
My husband.
Love you.
Thank you.
All right.
So sweet.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next item on our agenda, which is items from the board and superintendent. We're gonna start with Mrs. Rosario, board trustee, Mrs. Rosario. I think you're on mute, Mrs. Rosario.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. July 14 will always remain as a very, very exciting day for me. I thank you for voting me in as a board member, and I look forward to serving this community humbly with lots of compassion and commitment. And I just look forward to working together and giving my input as a team for the betterment of the children in San Isidro for their education. I really look forward to being back in the classrooms after 2 years. I truly missed being in the classroom. I did go for a cafecito with Mr. Little at his school a couple of months ago, and it felt great to see the children. And so I look forward. I can't wait to see the smiles of the children excited to go back to school and just learning because it's what's going to open so many opportunities and doors for all. So I thank you, and I'm here to serve you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Rosario. Mrs. Lopez, you're up next.
Well, I've been looking at some of the school plan reports that were given. I know they go through the site council and all that, but I think that they're good. But I also wanted to let you know that this last week we had I'm part of also of the Friends of San Isidro, and it's a lot of people that lived here before that no longer live here. Some of them still do, but we have people from out of state that come to these last Thursday of the month, and we're meeting here now in Coco's in San Isidro. But we've been pushing for a memorial, war memorial that was once in the old library, and we found out that months ago that the Park and Recreation has now taken over the old historic library, and they made it into a teen center, and it was celebrated on Monday. So Ta Gloria was there, and it was nice. A lot of people that were part of our group were there with their t-shirts that said Friends of San Isidro Los Amigos. And we have t-shirts that are made, and we have them made different colors. But it was nice to see what the teen center, where we used to go to this library and study there and do our homework, where now it's turned into something for our youth here in the community. So it was very nice. So you're welcome to go and visit it. And we're hoping that what they did was use the Cesar Chavez community has only one room where they have events for the teens there. So now they're going to combine them with the ones from the Boys Club, which is now the Park and Recreation together. And they're also going to service the senior citizens in the morning and have events. But they have a nice little lounge, a big TV. They have a pool table, a nice one. They have only about 4 computers, and we question why only 4? Well, they didn't have the money to bring more, but they're planning on getting donations for more computers for the youth. And they're going to have some employment for some of the youth from San Isidro to go into the Park and Recreation and apply. So that would be nice to have our kids that are from the high schools that want to work to apply for that. It's a good career. But also they had like a little court where it's to play basketball. So it's a nice what they've done with it. So it's a lounge area too. So you should stop by and see it. It looks very nice, and it has, hopefully our kids have somewhere to go now. So hopefully it'll be for their future also. So that was one of the events. And we haven't done very much in visiting the schools right now because they're closed, but they'll be opening. But I'm hoping that the training that they're giving a lot of our staff at the schools will help them and change a little in being a little more alert as to when parents come in, that we really try our best to help them. And I know that's not easy, and it's a lot of work, but these parents need help, and I want to see it change, and I want it to be for us to be out there for them. So in our new pre-K also is another one. I have some families that have children that are 3. And so I told them to go and apply online or go to the child care center and put in their paperwork. I go, it's a good opportunity for your children. So I'm hoping that we're going to get a lot of response from that. So hopefully everybody will be in good health and back, and we'll be able to make a lot of dreams come true. And also with Zenaida on board, I know that she'll see a lot of things and want to really give her input. And I think that's real important because we're not in the classrooms. We don't really see it. Yes, we get maybe calls, but it's not the same. But I'd like for her to know that, we as a team, we can do a lot more. And I know that with her on board, it'll bring us a lot more new ideas, and we'll learn from you. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lopez. Mrs. Palasiga, you're up.
I don't have very much today, other than very happy to have Ms. Rosario on board. I think going into this new year, there's going to be an extra layer of watchfulness. And I know that Ms. Rosario is very respected and will be received wherever she goes throughout the district. And so this is a very, I think it's another turning point for San Isidro School District. And I'm looking forward to the beginning of a new year. I'm sorry I don't have very much today. I'm recovering, so I'll let you all get on. I'll let us get on to the meeting.
Thank you, Mrs. Palsiga. I'm up next. First of all, I'm thrilled to have my friend, Mrs. Rosario, here with us. I consider her a friend because I've known her for a very long time, and seeing her work as a teacher, I was just always impressed. So for me, having her with us on this board is an honor. And I know I've said it before, but I'll say it again. So I just want to say thank you, Mrs. Rosario, for applying, and thank you for being with us. Um, I'm excited for this new school year coming up. I know we have a lot of upcoming projects. Just a couple of notes from my end. I would really like to have an update on our maintenance and facility plan and how we're progressing. Particularly, I know that we were looking to install new playgrounds in La Mirada, I believe, but also just an overall comprehensive report. Particularly also on the project labor agreement. I know that we as a board decided unanimously to pursue one, and I just want to make sure that we're doing that, and I want to see where we're at with that. And particularly also with the buyer site. I know I've said it for many years. It's been an eyesore since they tore it down. That was, I think, was it 2011, sometime before me, they tore it down. It's been an eyesore for more than a decade, and it's going to be a pleasure to see us build something there. So I just want to say let's move forward, and really just happy to have Mrs. Rosario here with us, and again looking forward to the new school year. And that, I'm going to move it on to Dr. Potter. You're up.
Thank you so much, Board Member Martinez. Just 4 comments. One, a warm welcome to Zenaida Rosario as our new board member. I'm so excited. I've had the absolute pleasure to visit her classroom when she was teaching in our school district, and to go to many of her promotion ceremonies, and just the passion and the energy and how alive she is to really help students be successful. And so to have a teacher who was recognized as a state teacher of the year in California join our governing board, it's a true honor. So congratulations and welcome, Ms. Rosario, welcome to our governance team. My second is to let you know that we kicked off the new school year starting yesterday with our management team and our annual leadership academy. And we had cabinet members and a few administrators co-presenting all of the important things to make sure that our new year would go well. And so just a thank you to those who presented, and to let you know that we have technically started to already launch the 2022-23 school year. With that said, we welcome back about 630 wonderful, amazing staff members to the new school year at our annual all staff back to school welcome back event. It will be held next Thursday, July 21st at Ocean View Hill, starting at 8 o'clock. So that's very exciting. Staff has been working very hard to stage that event so that it's a warm welcome to all of our staff members. And then the final note is that our students are coming back for the new 2022-23 school year, and their first day of school is Monday, July 25th. So a special thank you to our team in San Ysidro, our family that works so hard to do so much for our students and for our staff and our community for reopening our schools to the new school year in just a short few weeks. So thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Potter. Okay, so now we're going to move on to 13, which is conference session. We have one report presentation from Casa Familiar. And on that, I'd like to have Mrs. Susana Torres from Casa Familiar give us a presentation.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for inviting me. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mrs. Torres. How are you, Susana?
I'm fine. Thank you, Ms. Martinez. Thank you for inviting me to your board members, to your board meeting. I hope everything went well. I know there was a little bit delay, but that's okay. We need people in there for the district, for our children. And I just gave some few flyers to Monica, and I, as you know, work at Casa Familiar. Casa Familiar we have a lot of programs. The program that I always try to present to our parents is how to take care of their light bill, because during COVID, we had a lot of issues with a lot of high bills. A lot of people didn't have the care discount. They didn't know what was going on, why they had payment plans. And so I try to explain that to educate our parents on what they can do and what they can see on their light bill, because sometimes we have a tendency of, not looking at our bill, and then we just go ahead and just pay it and really don't know why. And so that's my part when I do educational to the school sites, is to explain to them how they can go about with their light bill. And besides that, I always give our program flyers out. I have all our program flyers there, our brochures of what CASA does for the community besides my program. And we're always here to support the school district. When we have our events, we always tend to invite them and the school sites for everybody to be involved. And so that's what I do, Mr. Martinez, is I like to do educationals to school sites with the permission of the district. So that way parents can get more information of our programs that we provide and the program that I work with for the SDG&E light bill. So that's basically.
Thank you, Susana.
Yes, and at the same time, I was gonna have another coworker join in, but I think due to the fact that she didn't know that this was gonna go a little longer, because she was gonna be more detailed about our programs and what we have done. But I guess due to the fact that it was a little late, she wasn't being able to join us. But she was gonna explain more in detail of what CASA does for the community and what it's, what we always try to do for our community in San Ysidro,
Thank you, Ms. Torres. Does the board have any question for Ms. Torres?
I just wanted to ask Susana, I know that when I used to visit the schools for the open house, you were there and somebody else from the Casa Familiar do you still do that? Well, maybe now because of what we've done that virtual. So I know you were there at the schools giving out leaflets and letting parents know that you guys were available.
Yes,
Yeah.
Irene, I'd be more than happy whenever you have those events in your schools, give me a call and I will go put a table and give out the information that we provide for the community in San Ysidro. And I still do that. Yes, I do. Like I'm gonna have one coming up here and right here at the park on Saturday in Coronado. The police night National Night Out, where all the kids get school supplies and all that. So that's another event that we can invite our kids of San Ysidro to go to, because it's National Night Out and it's August the 3rd. And our kids can go get school supplies there. They always have a lot of pens, paperback, backpacks. Well, it's really it's a good event. But yes, I'm more than glad to attend any events that the district invites me, and I'm more than glad to put a table there to give out information.
I see Monica's there.
Yeah, we see Monica also from here from Casa.
Oh, okay, there, Monica. Yeah, she will give you more detailed information of how Casa is doing as far as the programs and everything. Thank you, Monica.
Great.
Thank you, Susana, and my apologies. I was running late. I was in another meeting, and then I got caught up in some traffic stuff. But as Susana was saying, we're more willing to come out to any of resource centers or any events that you might have. So a little bit about just where we're at now. We continue to do a lot of our social services, which include everything from immigration services to all the assistance with the benefits if people need to troubleshoot or apply to Medi-Cal, to unemployment, if they need help with getting resumes done. That's still very much a big part and core of what it is that we do. We continue to do that off our Hall Avenue office. We've also kind of expanded to where sometimes we go and provide these direct services at living facilities, particularly with seniors. because it's, especially, during the pandemic and post-pandemic, we found out how difficult it is for them to come to us. And it's also just a little bit more safer. We just went to them. So that's something that we're continuing to do and expanding and growing in as far as that. Other things that we're doing is we're also just increasing a lot of more of our advocacy efforts. So we're doing a lot of work around environmental justice, particularly in San Isidro with air quality. So that's kind of been ongoing. We're real big advocates for Bayer Park, and all these things are kind of like linked together, particularly with EJ, with environmental justice. We were able to have San Isidro be designated as what is called an AB 617 community. And what that does by us having that kind of recognition, the bad part of that is that it just means that San Isidro is one of the most polluted areas in California because of our proximity to the border. But the good side of that is that by having this designation, there's a lot more resources that we can tap into as a community to be able to start addressing and mitigating some of these issues, right? As far as housing, like, we continue to do our transitional housing. It's very limited. We know that that's one of the things that's, San Isidro needs more of, right? And so what we're trying to do, one of our projects that we're working on is creating a community land trust. This is something that it's probably going to take years for us to actually fully develop. But right now we're seeing a lot of support where we just recently got funding from the county. We got funding from the state of California. And the idea is to create a development that is low-income housing, but that in the future we can transfer this housing complex of like 40 units or so to create a model where people from San Isidro who would normally never be able to typically own a home, that can come on this model where they maybe can rent to own, so that people from our community don't get displaced as these rents continue to keep going up and housing becoming more difficult. Our idea or vision and process, like in thinking a project like this, is so that we can have that opportunity for our community. And what else? Another real big thing, working with residents in the cultural quarter, like what we're calling the Cypress Drive, that alley that a lot of people take to get from the San Isidro Boulevard up to the trolley, and just enhancing that kind of middle part of our neighborhood with more safety, more lighting, and continuously trying to just get feedback from the community as to what some of the issues are, so that we can advocate and reach the right, whether people or in city or whatever department it is that we need to reach out to, so that we can address those kinds of things. So we're continuously doing these listening sessions with SANDAG, with MTS, with the city, and we will try and put as much information as we can, particularly through our promotora, so that hopefully more parents from the San Isidro School District can come and give and provide their feedback. But just know that that's a lot of the work that we're doing, and hopefully we can find ways where we can support one another. So
Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Susana, too. Do we have any questions from the board? Mrs. Rosario, Mrs. Palsigue, Mrs. Lopez?
Well, I've heard about the promotoras that have been around at our schools and have helped a lot. But this new listening issues with Sandag and all that, that's great. And my house, the alley is Cypress, and I've seen it's very disturbing, but I said, we need to have it cleaned. We need it to be, lighting is very important. I think that's the most issue, because there's a lot of groups that are out there, and sometimes the police department, the ambulance is always out there in the alley. So I think that's real important. And I didn't know that it was Casa Familiar pushing this issue. And that's some things that I think is really important, and that I'd like for, I know you have a website. This is something, one of many things. And I know that you've been supportive of the new park. So I know there's maybe in the future we can have a town hall meeting. I think that's the most important thing. A town hall meeting with Casa Familiar, with our community, is a very important issue that we need to bring back. And maybe after everything is a little more better, I think because of the COVID, we will be able to do that. But thank you, Monica, because there's a lot of other, I know, subjects that you brought up that I didn't know. And unless I'm out there asking, but I think it's good. And I think we should continue to have that connection with the schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need it because that information is very important. Because a lot of people don't tell you, that they're maybe suffering because of not being able to work, not being able to pay the light and gas. The rent issue is another factor that, thank you, because I think our people do need it. And some people have lost their homes. They're able not to rent because they've gone out of the area. And I know that they moved across the border, but they don't want to because of the lines. So that's another issue that I think, Monica, thank you for bringing it. And we need to have that contact with Casa Familiar regarding that.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing that up. And, feel free to reach out to me as the Monica H at Casa Familiar, or just call Casa Familiar and ask for me. And, sorry for those of you that I kind of just jumped in there, I didn't even introduce myself. I'm the Development and Social Impact Officer for Casa Familiar. I have a lot of history in the community. And yes, I agree. I think that would be a really, great idea to have some kind of town hall and one to kind of reintroduce the community too, because there's such a disconnect and we were all in panic mode and, doing things and, doing the food distributions that we did with you all and whatnot. And now as things are kind of like, we're reopening spaces and reconnecting, it would be great to reconnect with, the parents of San Isidro and let them know where we're at and also start hearing, where people at too. We try to continuously do that, but I know a lot of times they don't, so there's always new parents or they don't know that we're there. And just FYI, our website right now, it's under construction. It's a little outdated. So we're about to relaunch a new one, hopefully in the next couple of months, that has a lot of the updated information of these things that and projects that we're talking about. Because Casa is about to turn 50. And also that's, desde ahorita los estoy invitando because next year is going to be a whole big year of celebrations for us and all that we've done together as a community. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, Anthony, for letting us join the meeting and for giving out all information. And we are here to support the school district, the board members, what we can do. And we want to get that connection, keep it together for our community, for our parents and for our kids, because it seems that San Isidro is always left out the last. You always hear about other school districts, they did this, they did this, but not San Isidro. And our kids, they're the future of San Isidro. So we gotta, get them there with us, Anthony. And I appreciate the attention that you gave us today.
No, and I appreciate both you, Susana and Monica, for taking the time to meet with us today. I appreciate the partnership that we always have had and we always will have. And I can attest for a fact, Susana and I, we've been working along together many years.
Yes.
The police department events that we used to do, the Dia de San Isidro that we used to do. No, I mean, I could tell you that really, without Casa Familiar, San Isidro wouldn't be in a bad place. You guys bring us up. And I just want to say thank you for everything you do and the resources. And we'll always have a partnership with you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Okay, so great presentation from Casa Familiar. We're going to move on to our general administration, which is 14. We're going to go with 14.1 minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting on June 23rd, 2022, and the special board meeting on June 23rd, 2022?
I make the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Lopez, second by Mrs. Pelisigue. Any discussion? Hearing none. Dr. Potter, can you lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Calling the roll call vote for agenda item 14.1, Board Clerk Lopez,
Yes, I'm sorry.
Board Vice President Pelisigue,
Yes.
Board Member Rosario,
Yes.
Board Member Martinez.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0.
Thank you, Dr. Potter. We're going to move on to 14.2. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2223-0014, continuing governing board authority to hold virtual meetings pursuant to AB 361?
I make the motion.
I'll second.
Yeah, okay. Motion by Mrs. Lopez, second by Mrs. Pelisigue. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. Dr. Potter, can you lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Roll call vote for agenda item 14.2, Board Vice President Pelisigue,
Yes.
Board Clerk Lopez,
Yes.
Board Member Rosario,
Yes.
Board Member Martinez.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0.
Thank you, Dr. Potter. We're going to move on to 14.3. Do I have a motion to approve or adopt the resolution 23-0012, establishing annual special tax rates for community facilities, districts number 1, number 2, number 3 for 2022-2023 fiscal year?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay, so we have Mrs. Pelisigue making the motion and Mrs. Rosario seconding that. Do we have any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Oh, well, we're going to do a roll call vote. So Dr. Potter, can you lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Following the roll call vote for agenda item 14.3, Board Vice President Pelisigue,
Yes.
Board Clerk Lopez,
Yes.
Board Member Rosario,
Yes.
Board Member Martinez.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0.
Thank you, Dr. Potter. We're going to move on to 14.4. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2223-0013 to procure purchases, warranty, and installation, maintenance, and repair services through the Department of General Services, California Multiple Award Schedules?
I'll make the motion. Oh, I'll second.
Okay, Mrs. Lopez makes the motion. Mrs. Pelisigue seconds that. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Oh, Dr. Potter, can you lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Calling for the roll call vote for agenda item 14.4, Board Vice President Pelisigue,
Yes.
Board Clerk Lopez,
Yes.
Board Member Rosario,
Yes.
Board Member Martinez.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0.
Thanks, Dr. Potter. We're going to move on to 14.5. This is an informational item only. It's a COVID mask testing and vaccine protocols for the next school year.
I make the motion.
There's no motion to be made. I don't know
Oh,
who's
it's
gonna.
information.
I have Mrs. Colom as being the person in charge here. Does the board have any questions related to the protocols for the next school year?
Okay.
I don't. I reviewed the information, but I just want to be sure that we continue to make test kits available. I think we still have some surplus SYSDs, so, and some kits, I think.
Yes.
And are we still going to be having the temperature monitors at the entrance of the buildings? Not anymore, huh? Okay.
Those are no longer kind of required by the state,
Okay.
California Department of Public Health.
Is it possible that we can leave this open to revision into the year if we see the data change?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Can I ask
Dr.
something?
Potter? Oh, go for it, Irene.
Do we have them? I mean, we haven't, what have we done with them?
You mean the temperature
Yeah, and I know-
devices?
yeah,
They're
and I-
still up.
okay, the one that are in the cafeterias, I think not all the schools have them, or do they? Because some of the schools I didn't see them, but will they be there or they've already been taken away?
They're still up. Most of the schools have them up in the cafeterias, but some actually have them up in an alternate location.
Okay, yeah. All right. I just want to make sure we didn't dismantle them or, you know, get rid of them, because we don't know how we're gonna go, how we're gonna be.
Absolutely. They're very efficient in terms of testing the temperature at large volumes of students at the same time.
Okay.
May I have a moment, Board Member Martinez, just to, with Ms. Colomb, just to kind of talk about a couple of the changes that the California Department
please.
of Public Health is recommending
Absolutely.
and what the changes are in these guidelines. Ms. Colomb, would you like to begin? Thank you, Mr. Martinez.
Thank you. I just would like to share that on the masking protocols, as right now, staff and visitors must wear masks. It's strongly recommended that they wear masks in school and district buildings and indoors. However, wearing masks is not required while on district property. Indoor masking may return to required status for individual schools or the district if the following risk levels are reached. And this is the part that's different. Individual schools will resume if they have indoors for a minimum of 14 days when at least 3 outbreaks are happening. And an outbreak is considered 3 or more cases of individuals testing positive. It's called an outbreak. And after there's an outbreak, we have to have occurred more than 5% of the school are confirmed positive. Then that will bring us to a 14-day mask that we will have to do. So that's something new. Another thing that's new, it's not in this document, but something that's new is like the 6-foot distance is not long, it's no longer required. However, when we find out that there is a person in a group that has tested positive, then we have to recommend everybody to test in that environment. So those are part of the new guidelines also. And I think that's the part that's the newest thing, which is different from what we've been doing before.
With regards to the outbreak, I'll add that I do believe it's both. So there would have to be 3 positive cases and 5% of the school testing,
yes,
or more.
You're right.
It's not one or the other.
No,
both.
It's both. It's both.
And if a school has a dynamic where there are 3 positive cases in a single indoor environment, like a single classroom, plus the entire school is positive 5% or more, the mask would return for a period of 14 days.
14
So we
days.
wanted to have a calibration for when to have masks return. Also, the district retains the discretion that if there's a large event that happens at a school, such as orientations that may be happening soon for incoming new middle schoolers, or even a back to school night type of event where there are large amounts of people coming to the school, that the district retains the right to also require masks in those types of situations in an abundance of caution and safety for our students and our staff.
Thank you, Dr. Potter. And also the testing, we will no longer be doing concentric testing anymore. So that's kind of sad, but that had to do with the grant from what I heard. So that was, but we will still continue to provide the testing kits. We will be having a drive-by for testing kits because we are actually a letter. I think Mr. Mata was going to post it tomorrow. It went, I sent it to him today, telling parents that we're recommending that all the students test on the Sunday before school starts. So this is why on Monday, next week, the 18th, we'll be doing a drive-by to give out testing kits at VDM. And then on the 19th, we're going to be doing one at Sims in order to provide our families the testing kits they need. And we actually, right now, we send boxes of kits for the employees in every school. So they're all in the principal's office, and we will be providing these testing kits, as also the state of California has also said that they will continue to provide funding or testing kits for the district. So
Thank you, Mrs. Colom, Dr. Potter as well. Obviously safety for our children as well as for our staff has to be the priority. And I agree with Mrs. Palisige that if we can revisit this, that way we're up to date as to where we're at. I know that during the worst of the pandemic, our community was the worst. We were impacted by COVID in the county of San Diego. I think at a worst case, it was 1 out of 10 of us had COVID. And the reality is that because we're a border town, it's important for us to be perhaps one of the most cautious communities and districts when it comes to safety. So this is important. I know that we want to obviously fit the standard for the state, but obviously safety of our staff and our children is really the most important thing. And also obviously the families of our staff and children, because, you know, an able-bodied staff member can pick up COVID, and then when they go home, they can infect their family, which might not be able-bodied. So the reality is that we got to be very cautious. And I just want to thank you for this update, but just let's keep our eye on it, especially with the new school year coming in.
Yeah.
I want to say that I agree to continue revisiting it. I know that this new variant from the Omicron has been a little bit more tricky in terms of people even who are vaccinated with boosters. And there have been cases where a lot of people are testing negative, but yet they are positive. And that becomes, very difficult when you're out there and you think you're negative, and yet you are exposing the virus to many individuals. So we have to be very cautious, and I know that we are going to, but continue updating and maybe at some point have a continuous report so that we know how our schools are doing in terms of people who are getting sick, and also taking care of the students who were in those classrooms exposed, so that it doesn't spread as it does so easily. Especially this variant has been identified as one of the most contagious, and I know I just recovered after 12 days. It was not good, and it really scares me to think that I could get it again at some point. So just being cautious and always being on top of it for the health of all our students and all our employees, for that matter, and our community. Thank you.
Any other comments and questions from the board? Okay, hearing none. Thank you again, Mrs. Colom and Dr. Potter, for that update. We're going to move on to 14.6, which is the amend COVID prevention plan. Do I have a motion to authorize an amendment to the COVID prevention plan in accordance with the California Department of Public Health and local guidelines for schools?
I'd like to make the motion to amend the COVID prevention plan.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Rosario. Do we have a second?
I'll make the second.
Okay, Mrs. Lopez makes the second. Any further discussion from the board? Okay, hearing none. Dr. Potter, can you lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Calling the roll call vote for agenda item 14.6, Board Vice President Palisige.
Yes.
Board Clerk Lopez.
Yes.
Board Member Rosario.
Yes.
Board Member Martinez.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0.
Thank you, Dr. Potter. We're going to move on to 14.7, which is substitute teachers and substitute permit teachers for pay rents. Do I have a motion to approve the substitute teacher and substitute permit teachers' pay rates for the 2022-2023 school year?
I make the motion.
I second it.
Okay, motion made by Mrs. Lopez, second by Mrs. Rosario. Do we have any board discussion? Hearing none, Dr. Potter, can you lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Calling the roll call vote for agenda item 14.7, Board Vice President Palisige,
Yes.
Board Clerk Lopez,
Yes.
Board Member Rosario,
Yes.
Board Member Martinez.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0.
Thank you, Dr. Potter. We're going to move on to 14.8. Do I have a motion to approve, ratify the submittal of AB 1200 to the San Diego County Office of Education and approval of collective bargaining agreements with the California School Employees Association, CSEA, related to extra duties, wages, fringe benefits, and staff reclassifications?
I'll make the motion.
Was that you, Mrs. Palisige?
Yes, I'll make the motion.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I second.
Okay. The motion by Mrs. Palisige, second by Mrs. Rosario. Any discussion?
Just to let then I'd understand that this is something that any type of agreements with any unions, the AB 1200 needs to go to the County Department of Ed, be approved. So that's why it's on the agenda, and there'll be other ones also. So this is a procedure that we will be doing with any money that's been, or an agreement with any bargaining unit.
Okay. Mhm.
Do we have any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, Dr. Potter, can you lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Calling the roll call vote for agenda item 14.8, Board Vice President Palisige,
Yes.
Board Clerk Lopez,
Yes.
Board Member Rosario,
Yes.
Board Member Martinez.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0.
Thank you, Dr. Potter. We're going to move on to 14.9. Do I have a motion to approve, ratify the submittal of AB 1200 to the San Diego County Office of Education to provide an equivalent salary schedule increase and health and welfare benefits to certificated classified management and classified confidential groups?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
We have a second. Motion by Mrs. Palisige, second by Mrs. Lopez. Do we have any discussion? Okay, hearing none, Dr. Potter, can you lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Calling the roll call vote for agenda item 14.9, Board Vice President Palisige,
Yes.
Board Clerk Lopez,
Yes.
Board Member Rosario,
Yes.
Board Member Martinez.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0.
Thank you, Dr. Potter. We're going to move on to 14.10. Do I have a motion to open public hearing for the San Ysidro School District's reopeners to San Ysidro Education Association for 2022-2023 school year?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Palisige, second by Mrs. Lopez. Any discussion? Hearing none. Dr. Potter, can you lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Calling the roll call vote for agenda item 14.10, Board Vice President Palisige,
Yes.
Board Clerk Lopez,
Yes.
Board Member Rosario,
Yes.
Board Member Martinez.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0 to open the public hearing.
Okay, our public hearing is now open. Do we have any discussion or any comments from the public related to this issue?
Board Member Martinez, we do not have any public comment for this agenda item.
Thank you, Miguel. And on that note, I'd entertain a motion to move on to 14.11, which is to close this public hearing for the San Ysidro School District's reopeners to San Ysidro Education Association for the 2022-2023 school year. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make the motion.
We have a second.
I second it.
Okay. Motion by Mrs. Palasigue, second by Mrs. Rosario. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dr. Potter, can you lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Calling the roll call vote for 14.11, Board Vice President Palasigue,
Yes.
Board Clerk Lopez,
Yes.
Board Member Rosario,
Yes.
Board Member Martinez.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0.
Great. Next, we're going to move on to 14.12. Do I have a motion to approve, ratify the revised offer of employment for Manuela Colom as substitute senior management effective as early as July 1st?
I make the motion.
Great. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I second.
Okay. Motion by Mrs. Lopez, second by Mrs. Rosario. Any discussion? Hearing none, Dr. Potter, can you lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Calling for the roll call vote for 14.12, Board Vice President Palasigue,
Yes.
Board Clerk Lopez,
Yes.
Board Member Rosario,
Yes.
Board Member Martinez.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0.
Thank you, Dr. Potter. We're going to move on to 15, which is consent calendar. All items appearing are adopted by one single motion. There will be no discussion of these items prior to the consideration of the motion unless a board member or the superintendent requests that any of these such items be removed from the consent calendar and voted on separately. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I just wanted to ask where it says unless a board member requests to remove it from the consent calendar and voted on separately, do I do that after the vote?
Yeah, so Mr. Rosario, what we do is we're going to do the motion and then the second, and then you would actually choose the one you want to pull. And then after that, we would vote on everything other than that pool, and then we vote on the pool. So we would do a separate itemized vote on that particular pool. But we would first need a second and a motion, a second, and then we do the pools. So do we have a motion and a second?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Palasigue, second by Mrs. Lopez. Do we have any pools? We'll start with Mrs. Rosario.
Yes, on the new job descriptions, 15C.1.2. Do I state my reason for pulling them?
No, well, you can do it after when we're discussing them one by one.
Okay.
But we just pull them and then we would vote on them separately.
Okay, that's it.
So 15C.1 and 15C.2.
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Lopez, do you have any pulls?
No.
And Mrs. Palasigue, do you have any pulls?
No.
Okay. Okay, on that note, I'd like us to vote, and Dr. Potter, can you lead us in a roll call vote for all the items on our consent calendar except C1, 15C1 and 15C2.
Calling for the roll call vote, beginning with Board Vice President Palasigue,
Yes.
Board Clerk Lopez,
Yes.
Board Member Rosario,
Yes.
Board Member Martinez.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0.
Thank you, Dr. Potter. On that note, we're going to move on to 15C.1, which is new job description, Assistant Superintendent of Administrative Leadership, School Support and Safety. Do I have a motion to approve that new job description?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
can't see it.
So Mrs. Palasiga makes the motion. Do we have a second for that? 15C.1?
I seconded, I'm sorry.
Okay. So motion by Mrs. Palasiga, second by Mrs. Lopez. I know this is your pool, Mrs. Rosario, so it's open for discussion now.
Yes, what brought me to ask to pull it was the person who called in to give, when the items from the floor or items on the agenda. And the concern was the possibility that these two 15C1 and 2 are they the same position? And because it says a new job and I haven't seen the duties and responsibilities, I just wanted to know more about these two positions and basically what each responsibility and duties were. And so that was my concern right now, since I was just thinking about the person who called in from CSCA, and it just brought to mind from that I wanted to know a little bit more about these two new jobs and what the responsibilities and the resources that they would provide for the district and the schools as well. So that was my concern. I don't know if.
Thank you, Mrs. Rosario. I think Dr. Potter, you can answer that.
Yes, thank you. These are two different positions. One position already exists. That position that already exists is 15C2, which is the Assistant Superintendent of Educational Leadership and Pupil Services. This existing position was formerly held by Dr. David Farkas, who moved on to a superintendent position in another district. This position, 15C2, which leads to the conversation of 15C1, also had the component of safety in it. We've moved the safety component to the new assistant superintendent position, 15C1. That safety component now will not only include COVID safety matters, but also safety matters regarding the REMS emergency protocols for the federal government and public agencies, such as schools, with regards to incidents such as school shootings. So there is new state funding to start to address safety in schools, and that allows us to have the new position to be multi-funded. The new multi-funded position would also provide school support, and embedded within the new multi-funded position is some oversight of MOTF and school construction projects, which does not currently exist in the existing assistant superintendent position. So that would be the primary differences between the two positions. One would be multi-funded and overseeing more construction and MOTF type of issues and safety. And the second one really resting in the world of educational and instructional services.
So the superintendent in one of these positions, the first one in leadership, they would also be responsible for curriculum and instruction, or do you have a different personnel that focuses on curriculum and instruction? Because I remember years back, we used to have a superintendent of just curriculum and instruction. So I know with time they've changed or combined some of the responsibilities. And so I just want to make sure that which of these two superintendents would be responsible for curriculum and instruction in the schools.
The 15C2 would have some oversight of curriculum and instruction in schools. However, the primary leadership role for curriculum instruction rests with the Executive Director of Education Services, which is a department executive director.
Okay. Just writing down my notes, so I got it down. Okay, I wanted to just clarify that. Thank you.
Great. Do we have any other questions? Okay, hearing none. Dr. Potter, can you lead us in roll call vote for 15C.1?
Calling the roll call vote, beginning with Board Vice President Palasiga.
Yes.
Board Clerk Lopez.
Yes.
Board Member Rosario.
Yes.
Board Member Martinez.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0.
Thank you, Dr. Potter. We're going to move on to 15C.2, which is the revised job description for the Assistant Superintendent of Educational Leadership and Pupil Services. Do I have a motion to approve this revised job description?
I'll make the motion.
We have a second.
I second it.
A motion by Mrs. Palisige, second by Mrs. Lopez. Do we have any discussion on this item? I know Mrs. Rosario, you pulled this one as well.
Yes, but it was clarified when it was explained by Dr. Potter.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so do we have any other discussion? Hearing none, Dr. Potter, can you lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Calling for the roll call vote of item 15C2, Board Vice President Palisige,
Yes.
Board Clerk Lopez,
Yes.
Board Member Rosario,
Yes.
and Board Member Martinez.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0.
Thank you, Dr. Potter. We're going to move on to the last item, which is to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn our meeting today at 7:36 p.m.?
I'll make the motion.
I second it.
Motion by Mrs. Palisige, second by Mrs. Rosario. Any discussion? Hearing none, Dr. Potter, can you lead us in a roll call vote, please?
Calling for the roll call vote to close the meeting at 7:36, Board Vice President Palisige,
Yes.
Board Clerk Lopez,
Yes.
Board Member Rosario,
Yes.
Board Member Martinez.
Yes.
The vote passes 4-0.
Thank you, Dr. Potter, and I want to thank everyone for joining us here tonight. We are adjourned today at 7:36 p.m. For those that are tuning in, thank you for listening in on us, and obviously we're here, and thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
And on that note, I just want to say thank you again, Mrs.
The
Rosario.
recording has stopped.
Welcome, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Martinez, and for leading us. Thank you very much
Thank you.
to all